Yeah, that's actually a good idea.
In order to be an architect, it's actually like an act of writing in the city. In order to write in the city, you have to read, and there's so much to read. It's a very dense literature that Brooklyn represents. When you can read that, then there's a lot you can do in terms of how you write. I love building in Brooklyn. I've done a lot of work in Brooklyn for a number of reasons. One, it's a big place with lots of different communities. The neighborhoods have very different social fabric, physical fabric, layers and layers of history in terms of different ethnic groups. The Domino Sugar Company has a very, very deep and rich history with the borough. Sugar at that time was the most important product made in Brooklyn. The plant closed in 2004, and its history is quite extraordinary.
It was the site where tens of thousands of immigrants arrived from the Caribbean and settled in the immediate neighborhood. It was the site where thousands of people worked in uncomfortable, grueling work conditions over a number of years. It was a site where there was labor strife.
So did all my 4 in the morning comments make sense? Terracotta would be so good.
Terracotta's good.
I think that's first choice. Because especially the finish you get on it, the light.
And the red.
The light would be
It would be really
spectacular.
nice.
You could even just do a switchback ramp that runs the length of that wall. It could be something of interest. I mean, you can't. More recently, my new firm, POW, we were engaged to do a specific design for the sugar refinery itself. And that design is for a 400,000 square foot kind of high-tech technology incubator office building that's inserted inside of the old sugar refinery. Our design for the sugar refinery went through the New York City Landmarks Preservation Commission.
It was a site that was controversial in the modern era as a sign of gentrification and the conversation of gentrification that's happening citywide.
They very heavily scrutinized our design. We went and presented the design a number of times to community members and other civic organizations who care about preservation.
You can build a whole new neighborhood out of brand new construction, and it will never feel the same as if if you have an amazing historic building kind of anchoring the new construction, and that's what we have at Domino. When we first went in the refinery building, it looked like a war zone. There were raccoons in the building still feeding off refined sugar that still existed in the building. It was a skin, a facade around a 19th century industrial machine.
To me, it's one of the most fascinating projects I've ever worked on, and it's because it is constantly about mixing the old and the new and the creative tension that comes from having very deep and significant history, but also change and growth.
Vishaan Chakrabarti, he brought a vision for the refinery that we thought was more aligned with our vision.
Basically, our building inserts a new building inside of the old one. It has this barrel vault on the top that is actually resonant with what's known as the American round arch style, which is what the old building, what the landmark was built in. And so there's a relationship between the old and the new that way.
You're not trying to sanitize the brick. You want all the warts. You want the facade with all the warts. You want to make sure it's secure. You want to make sure it's structurally sound, etc. But you want the history. You want the patina of the industrial era.
When you have growth happening, how do you maintain your history and your identity? In the 1950s and the 1960s, we thought of anything that was old as disposable. So most of the time around the world, when you see these huge projects, there's nothing left of the old. right? They wipe it all away and they sort of create the same kind of glass sameness. America doesn't have the same kind of geographic strata that a place like Italy or India might have, but I think we're starting to get there. You know, we're starting to understand the importance of the past. One of the things that I'm most excited about is that this was a working waterfront before with all of the workers that were at Domino, and it will be a working waterfront again with this new office building. But how do you balance growth against the needs of both the existing physical structure of the city, landmarks, historical buildings, and the existing social structure of the city in terms of communities that live there? In my world, it's the struggle of our time. At the Domino site, there's a substantial provision for affordable housing. A lot of that is neighborhood-based affordable housing. These things are very important because if we don't have those kinds of mechanisms, we are going to lose our existing communities. We have to have a balanced strategy towards growth, and I think Domino is an excellent example of that balance.